This is Sherita Herring with Beverly Hills to Barnyard, and you're listening to the WCEG network. And I'm just kind of winging it. I've had some computer issues, so make sure that you like the WCEG network at WCEG underscore talk underscore radio. I hope I got that right. I have a very special guest that's coming on with me today, Mr. Ben Gay. If you are an entrepreneur, or if you have an idea that you want to get out there to the masses, if you are a small business and you've been sitting kind of stale, I've got the perfect person that's coming on with me today. So let me give you a little bit of history. Ben, he has been called a living legend in the sales world. After 50 plus years in professional selling, he has been the number one salesperson in every organization in which he has worked. If you're running a business that's not operating at full throttle, or if you're thinking about starting a business venture and you don't want to miss any of the sales or the clients that are truly entitled to what you're offering, this is who you want to talk to. So I'm not going to hold up any further. I want to bring him on because he's got a lot of stuff to share. Mr. Ben Gay the third. How are you, Ben?
I'm fine. How are you this morning?
I'm amazing. Against all the hurdles this morning, I am still amazing and looking forward to bringing you to my audience. So, Ben, how long have you been in sales as far as even before you started calling it professional sales?
Well, I won my first sales contest when I was 10, citywide contest in Atlanta, Georgia. So I won a bicycle selling Krispy Kreme donuts. That was when I was 10. So that's 71 years ago.
Oh
Uh,
my God.
and then
Wait,
I,
wait, 71 years ago. Ben, first of all, because I call you handsome, I cannot believe that you won a sales contest 71 years ago. But I want to touch on that a little bit because we don't realize all of how we keep showing up even in our young age. How did you sell those donuts at that age and win over everyone else?
well, Krispy Kreme donuts aren't hard to sell,
Uh-huh.
especially in the South. And my father taught me a little script. He said, stand in the South, we have screen doors. And he said, so stand where they can see about half of your body, but they have to open the screen door to see you, to fully see you. And when they do, hand them a box of Krispy Kreme donuts and say, here are your donuts. And they reach out, for fear that you're going to drop them if they don't. And then you say, will one dozen be enough? And many would say, no, give me two or three or what have you. And that was my entire sales presentation. Stand off to the
Wow.
side, have them open the screen door. Here are your donuts. Here are your Krispy Kremes. And I'm sure somebody did, but I don't remember anyone turning me down. The door was open. They reached out and got the donuts. Now we're discussing two, three, 4 dozen donuts.
Uh-huh.
And that was
Now,
it. I
now,
didn't
were you
think
the only one selling donuts?
well, the whole city, grammar school kids, uh,
Okay.
everybody was selling donuts. Yeah, I was probably up again. I didn't know it or care. I was just selling donuts and having a good time.
So then
But
your technique was what did it then.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I didn't know what the word was at the time, but I fell in love with scripting immediately. I said
Wow.
exactly the same thing at every door with the same smile, standing in the same position. And I not only sold all the donuts I had, I sold all the donuts that my friends had
Uh-huh.
because they couldn't sell theirs. They were afraid to go out and make sales calls. Just like now, they're probably still afraid to go out and make sales calls.
Okay.
So,
So you
so that
mentioned
was it.
scripting. I'm sorry.
That's right.
So you mentioned scripting.
Hmm.
Should when like even with my organization or whatever someone is trying to do, should they have a script?
Absolutely. And people say, I don't like scripts. I can always tell when someone's giving a script. Have you ever been to the movies? Oh, see, they're on script. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
while you're crying and laughing and so on, you're doing it to something that somebody wrote 2 years ago and the actor memorized. If you watch the news, they're reading off a teleprompter. It's it, in direct mail marketing, no one questions this. There was a Wall Street Journal letter that starts out something like this: 25 years ago on a spring day, two people graduated from college today. One, I'm paraphrasing, one is the CEO of the company, the other one is stuck in middle management. And they go on to imply the difference was one read the Wall Street Journal every day and so on. That letter has been so successful, it's their control piece. They've been trying to beat it for over 50 years
Mhm.
and have never have a letter beat it, not one. And so they still, I get new Wall Street Journal letters from time to time, and then I get the 25 years ago on a spring day, they go back to, okay, those didn't work. So what they do in direct mail is you test and test and test to come up with the
Mhm.
best way to present your offer, your product or your service. Selling is the same way. And I don't mean, hi, my name's Ben Gay, blah, blah, blah. 30 minutes later, I ask for the order. I call them script chunks. For instance, uh, if I'm talking to you about the closers part one, the best-selling book on selling and closing ever written, uh,
Ah,
then I say that's the kicks, the blocks, and the punches of selling the way it really is, not the way we wish it was. And then people will say, let's say I'm being interviewed, well, what about the closers part two? Well, the closers part two picks up where part one leaves off and shows you what sophisticated people really do with that information. Cary Grant said the secret of acting was not to get caught at it. That's also the secret of selling. Now,
ah,
everything I just said to you from the time I picked up the closers part one, everything is word for word the way I have said it thousands of times. I find it works best. So why would I change it? So it's
okay.
script chunks. If you ask me, well, why should I do this? I don't start at second number one and go for 30 minutes. I lift out of the script the chunk of the script that answers your question effectively, tested. So
Okay. Okay. Now, you held up two books. Where can my audience get your books?
I have 35 books. Well, I don't think they're all in print, but 35 books. But the answer to your question is, I'll just hold it up. Ignore the website at the top. That's the reason my fingers are over it. Go to
Okay.
stores
Dot
dot
Bay.
ebay.com/Ronzoni books, RONZONEBOOKS. And they sell the books for less than I sell them,
Okay.
and offer free shipping, but they still bring them to me and I sign and date them. So if you order by two any day, it goes out that day.
I'll have to make sure and get them myself, Ben. Now, when and how did you get started professionally? We talked about you at 10 and being amazing. When did it start professionally?
Then I opened a lawn mowing service when I was 14, employed about 20, 25 kids on a per job basis. I discovered I didn't like to mow lawns, but what I did like was selling. So I would go door to door and sell the job, bring my friends to mow the lawn, and then we'd split the money. And people, well, why would they work for half price? They didn't work for half price. Their half of the money was more than they were getting on their own when they were keeping it 100%. Because again, I had a script. Hi, my name is Ben Gay. I live here in the neighborhood, da, 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 and we'd like to mow your lawn, give us a chance. And you don't have to pay anything up front, and there's not a set fee. You pay us what you think it's worth when we're done. Then I would come by in the afternoons, inspect the job, and collect the money, fix any little problems that there were. And they started paying two and
Ah,
three times what they would have paid normally. I didn't ask for it. That's what they paid. So my friends were making more money just mowing. That was fine with them. I was making as much or more money as if I was mowing, but I
Yes.
but I wasn't. And in Atlanta in the summer, that's good news, not to be mowing in that heat and humidity.
Oh
So
my gosh.
so
So at that
profession.
age, you were experiencing, you had major communication skills. You were doing management at 14. You were doing budgeting and even budget forecasting at 14. I mean, that's crazy.
Well,
That,
my father told me to get out of the house and do something. So he said, he said, why don't you mow lawns? I said, I don't have a lawnmower. He said, we have a lawnmower. It's that strange object down in the basement that you walk past 20 times a day and have never touched.
wow.
I'll show you how to work it. So I mowed 2 or 3 lawns, and then I decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. And he said, okay, here's an idea. And he sort of taught me a new script, and I did it. Then I went to work at Macy's, became their #1 salesman and their youngest buyer in their then 100-year history, they said. I assume that was true. And then one day I got married, and I was putting my wife through nursing school. She's passed away, but
Mm.
Marcia was her name, lovely lady.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't have enough money to put her through nursing school and live and eat and so on. So I started looking through the want ads, and I went to Help Wanted, and there was nothing in there, literally nothing in Help Wanted I could do. I didn't see anything. So I flipped down, and just as I was about to throw the Atlanta Journal-Constitution in the trash outside of a grocery store I was calling on, uh, I saw business opportunities. I didn't know what that was, but I looked down in mid throw. I was about to throw it out, and it said, if you know anything about marketing plans and want to make more money, call this number. Well, I didn't know what a marketing plan was either, but I wanted to make more money. So I called the number from a payphone on Peachtree Street in Atlanta. Is that most of your listeners probably aren't old enough to know what a real phone booth is. I don't see them
Well,
anymore.
many of them are my age and older, so they do.
Yeah, well, there's a sound, as you know, when somebody calls you from a phone booth, it sounds like they're calling from inside a trash can.
Uh-huh.
So I called the number, talked to a guy named Bill Dempsey, and I began interviewing him because I was Ben Gay with Brown Gay Food Brokers, of course, neglecting to point out that the Brown Gay was my father, not me, and his partner. And about 5 minutes into my interview to see if he was worthy of my time, he cut me off. He said, Mr. Gay, I'm not the man standing in a phone booth answering want ads. Where are you? And I told him, he said, you're about 2 blocks from my office. You have 10 minutes to be standing in front of me, or don't ever call this number again. He slammed down the phone. So I walk in, went skidding in.
Uh-huh.
My
Uh-huh.
partner was with me, Jimmy Rucker. We didn't have anything to be partners with, but he was my friend, and we were going to do something together. We went skidding in, 1447 West Peachtree Street, Suite 300. Skidded up in front of the receptionist because I had about 1 minute of my 10 left.
Hmm.
I said, hi, I'm Ben Gay. And she says, yes, we're expecting you. And from behind me, I heard this giggle, and I turned around. I'm used to Ben Gay jokes, so it wasn't new to me. But I
Uh-huh.
turned around, and this Southern gentleman said, Ben Gay, that's an interesting name. And I shook his hand. I said, yeah, what's your name? He said, Zig Ziglar.
Oh,
He'd answered the same ad. So to answer your question, I started in professional selling Wednesday, September 15th, 1965 in Atlanta, Georgia, with Zig and my running buddy, Jimmy Rucker. The three of us joined at the same time. It turned out the job interview was an opportunity meeting for three
oh
people.
my God. Oh my God. Well, you know what? You have just answered something, a prayer that I felt went unanswered. And that's because Zig Ziglar, I read his book, Raising Positive Kids in a Negative World, right?
Yeah.
And I always wanted to meet him. Well, to me, you are the next best thing as far as that. I always love the fact that we were connected now. That just makes it even better because the mind is what always I wanted to meet and how that because it truly helped me as a single mom. And now I see it and I hear it even in you. And I'm just that just makes me even more excited to know you. Now tell me this. So your dad was in sales,
Yes.
obviously from I think you said Gay Brown and Gay or something.
Yeah. Brown Day food brokerage at
Okay,
that
so
time.
okay, and so the skill set was dinner talk, and at the
Yeah.
breakfast table. So now tell me this: it sounds like it, but it may sound like a crazy question. But were you an instant success even as an adult?
Great question. We joined Holiday Magic Cosmetics. It was soon became the largest direct sales MLM company in the world.
Uh-huh.
And I beat Zig in a year-long sales contest, and I won the mystery prize. Zig won a Rolls Royce. Somebody else won a Lincoln Continental. Blah, blah, blah. I won the mystery prize. I flew to California to acquire it. Went to dinner with William Penn Patrick, one of the gurus of that era. He was the owner of the company. And I said, okay, what's the mystery prize? And he said, you're going to be president of the company. So,
What?
yeah, that was my reaction. I was 25. And this was a company that within a couple of years, we were doing $1 million a day,
Oh
7
my
days a week.
God.
And adjusted for inflation, that's about $3.5 billion with a B a year. And I couldn't read a P&L. I was a high school graduate, 25 years old, sitting in this catbird seat. And I won't bore you with a long story, but it was interesting times. That's when Dr.
Oh
Napoleon
my
Hill came to work
God.
for me. I used to love to say within earshot of Zig, because we still went to meetings together. I'd fly into town and I was the
Yeah.
celebrity and Zig was working the room.
Yeah.
And they'd say, do you know Zig Ziglar? Yes, he works for me. He was 18 years older than I was. And, but it was true. He worked for me. I was president of the company.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Oh wow.
he would say, Ben, would you quit saying that? That's what am I supposed to say? I'm your valet?
Yeah, because I was wondering. I mean, if he won a Rolls Royce, I was wondering what that mystery prize was going to be. And oh my gosh,
Yeah,
how
and
long did it take?
I asked Bill Patrick, I said, what if you were disappointed in who won the contest? I'd met him a few times and introduced him at meetings, so I wasn't a total unknown quantity to Bill
Uh-huh.
Patrick.
Uh-huh.
I said, what if somebody had won that you didn't like? And because there were several that I wouldn't have hired to be president. And he said, well, I would have changed the prize. That's the reason it's a mystery prize. I wanted to see who won it.
That was so smart.
That's sort of
That was
clever.
yes. So now you've been quoted as saying that sales happen much quicker than most salespeople realize. So
Yeah.
how much quicker and what
Oh, in the first 10 to 15 seconds is usually where sales it's starting to take form that quickly. I coined a phrase years ago, and it's still true.
uh-huh.
Uh, People buy from people they know, like, trust, and with whom they feel safe. So your job isn't to sell the widget or the electronic whatever or the Kirby vacuum cleaner. Your job is to get known, liked, trusted, and have them feel safe with you as quickly as possible. And you've
Ah,
met people that you just instantly like. You're one of them.
mhm.
When I first met you with that beautiful smile, I
Thank you.
remember thinking, wow, she's something special. So you've already
Maybe
won.
blush.
Well, for real, you've already won. Now just don't say anything stupid and have a product that's good. Pick a quality product or service that's competitively priced, and spend your days talking to people who are qualified to buy it.
Right.
Sales is not a mystery.
Ben, just recently I'm in the midst of one of my master classes as far as grant writing, and I'm talking about even how we use social media. And people don't realize just by what you just said, we are our brand. You know, you might think that
Yeah.
it's your business or what you're selling or whatever, and your social media also reflects you as your brand and how are you presenting yourself. So even when I'm from dealing with my goats to marketing my master classes or whatever, they're listening to Sherita, who is the brand. And but also, how am I representing my brand across social media? Do they see me partying every night and throwing down liquor? You know, or so how are we representing? So just hearing you say that is, it's like, wow, that blows me away. Now, I have another question. Now, you've also been quoted as saying that the vast majority of problems in sales can be solved quite easily. How so?
Bring them up front and brag about them. J. Douglas Edwards, the old sales trainer who also worked for me once I became president of the company. I wrote a
Mhm.
book for him after he died called Sales Closing Power, directly from his seminar, my seminar notes, going to his seminar and his writing and so on.
Uh-huh.
He said, when you have a built-in objection, bring it up first and brag about it. So in the closers part 2, in the last chapter, there's a chapter called Sales Infiltration. If I had to leave behind a legacy, in addition to the 35 books and the 5,000 page speeches and da, 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 it would be Sales Infiltration, about 40 pages in the back of the closers part 2. There I lay out exactly what professional people, master closers, sales infiltrators actually do, not what they say from the stage, not what they tell you over lunch, in 2 beers, what they actually do. I have studied it. Dr. Napoleon Hill worked for me, and he told me about his studying of
Wow.
people and the 500 people that he studied in depth and so on. And he told me, he said, look carefully at the people you're dealing with and watch what they do, watch what the winners do. Among them was Zig. Watch what he does on stage while working with people and so on. So what I noticed was they don't do what they talk about doing, at a sales training thing. And they say this and you say this and they say this, and then wham, you close them. That's interesting and it's exciting if you don't know anything about selling and you're sitting in the audience with your legal pad, but it doesn't work that way. People buy from people they know, like, trust, and people buy quality products and services that are competitively priced. And your job is not to get in the way of that. If you've got a good Krispy Kreme donuts, looking back, exciting and funny as that story is, the trick was not getting in the way of the customer and the box of donuts. If you've ever had a hot or warm Krispy Kreme donut,
Yes,
it's the
yes,
best donut on earth. How
yes,
difficult could that be to sell? The
right.
reason I outsold everybody was I outworked everybody. I got up early, stayed up late, worked on weekends. I was a selling machine. So I just outworked them. Give you a quick
And
example.
your communication skills, Ben. I mean,
Oh,
you
that
cannot.
helps. Yeah,
Yes.
I was raised in a group of everybody in my family, every aunt, every uncle, most of the neighbors, everybody was in selling, and most were doing reasonably well. I was raised 2 blocks out the front gate of East Lake Country Club in Atlanta, and so I grew up around successful people. They didn't give me any money, but I grew up watching people, and it sort of becomes to quote another friend, Jim Newman, it becomes your comfort zone.
Uh-huh.
When I left home, got married, and moved into this little ratty apartment in Atlanta, I looked around. I thought, God, what is this? I didn't know people lived this way. My
Right.
comfort zone was set differently. So I did what people do subconsciously with their comfort zones. I scrambled to get back in my comfort
In
zone,
your comfort zone.
which
Okay.
was riding around in nice cars with cash in my pocket, doing
Mhm.
well. But anyway, Zig and I didn't really know where we were in this year-long contest. Year-long contests are a big mistake, by the way. If you're running a company, don't ever do that. Call me and I'll tell you how to run a contest that really gets people excited. But in this year-long contest, I knew I was doing all right because I was certainly a top salesperson in Atlanta, and people came, you know, in the South, if you go anywhere, you have to go through Atlanta. If you die on the way to heaven, you
Mm-hmm.
go to Atlanta, the airport. Uh, so I knew we were probably near the top, but I didn't know or care. I was also raised not to worry about contests and so on. Come
Uh-huh.
early, stay late, work on weekends, do your very best, get better at your job, and it'll all work out. And if that puts you on top of some contest or pile, wonderful. And if it doesn't, and you're clear that you can say you did all that, then
Mm-hmm.
that's fine
Mm-hmm.
too. So one night, it turned out it was the last night of the year-long contest. I didn't know that. Jimmy Rucker and I went somewhere near in the Atlanta area and held an opportunity meeting. And we sold X number of people on coming into the business with either back then, a 2,500 or $5,000 investment, 25,000, 50,000 today.
Mm-hmm.
And we held a meeting and did our thing and sat down with scripted closes and went through the closes and so on. And within a few days, I was told that and I should always say Jimmy was a big part of it, but I was sort of the, the flash at part of
Mm-hmm.
the act,
Mm-hmm.
that we had won this contest. When I got to the home office and became settled in as president, I got to look at some files that I was curious about. And one of them was how Zig and I had competed over that year.
Mm-hmm.
We won the year-long sales contest almost exactly by the dollar amount of that last meeting Rucker and I held on the last day of the contest.
Wow.
Zig was in Columbia, South Carolina, having a victory party because he knew he had won the contest. Had he
Pretty.
held an opportunity meeting instead of a victory party, it's possible you and I wouldn't be talking, because becoming president of that company at that time and having Earl Nightingale and Dr. Napoleon Hill and Og Mandino all work for us, you know,
Wait, they worked for you.
yeah, Earl was the voice of all of our companies.
Now, and everyone talks about Think and Grow Rich,
Yep.
and that came from working under your tutelage.
Well, that was done both. The Strangest Secret, Earl's classic recording, was recorded in 1956. Pardon me, I was still mowing lawns.
Oh my God. Well, you know
Uh,
what? We're getting close to the hour. Um, please give that website again for the books.
uh, Go to, you'd have thought when I put it down, I would have noticed where I put it. Go to
Stores.ebay.com
stores.ebay.com forward slash
forward slash.
Ronzoni Books, RONZONEBOOKS.
And we're going to make sure, and in the recap, I will have that that website there. You know,
Bless you.
Ben, we have to have a part two. Would you come back?
Of course. For
Oh,
you,
oh yes.
what did
Yeah,
I say when you asked me to be here?
you said yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
Ben, let's see, we're down to less than 2 minutes, so I'm going to have to start closing.
All
But
right.
I just want to thank you. It is such a joy to be face to face instead of just communicating on Facebook.
Thank you. The
And
feeling
thank
is mutual.
Yes, yes, yes. And please, all of you, stay tuned because I will be bringing back this magnificent, not only salesperson, but absolutely phenomenal personality that you've just got to get to know better. Ben, thank you so, so, so much for being on. And now I've got to jump to something that I should have said earlier at the start of the show about you're listening to the WCEG network on WCEGtalkradio.com or watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube, and the WCEG network. We're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. So, like WCEG on Facebook, follow on Twitter or Instagram at WCEG underscore talk underscore radio, and at WCEG network. Last but not least, the topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests and not the WCEG network. So thank you so much for your continued support. So again, this is Sherita Herring coming to you from Beverly Hills to Barnyard, a show we air every week. And my very special guest who I'm so honored to have this living legend of a sales and marketing guru, Mr. Ben Gay III. Stay tuned for when he's going to be coming to us again, because this has been a true, true joy. Ben, thank you again for being on with me.
Thank you, dear.
Have a great week.